Hey everybody, Mike Steele here with BBQ Champs Academy. I got my sidekick with me, Mr. Aaron Leslie, Texas Oil
What's up,
Dust.
man?
How you
How you
doing,
doing?
brother?
I'm good.
That's good. That's good. That's good, man. I'm telling you, we'll have a good show. We're waiting on Chris. He's over in Dallas area, and he said, "Man, traffic's horrible. He may be a few minutes late, but that's all right. You got us two clowns to talk to tonight. So if y'all have any questions or comments or anything, drop them in the chat. Let us know. And man, I'm excited. We got a little more cold weather coming down here to Louisiana. It's supposed to be 21 degrees the next couple nights. So just telling me you're going to be down to 13 tonight in single digits. It's way damn colder there. You can keep that
Well,
stuff.
I didn't look at that weather forecast again, but I'm pretty sure that it was supposed to be down in the teens.
Yeah,
Like right now, it's got wind chill, which we don't ever worry about wind chill because the wind always blows. But we got
right.
wind chill at like 20 degrees right now, and it's still
Woo.
32 degrees outside. So
Yeah, yeah.
um,
Kind of cold.
I say just go back inside.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I came out here and bumped the heater up a little bit. I was like, yeah, it's a little cool. I usually keep it about 65 in here when I'm not out here all the time. And I was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna put that thing at 68. I at least want to be somewhat warm. So, we got a few folks popping in here tonight. We got Mr. Chris
Yeah,
that's with, or Chance that's with us. We got Mr. John. He's up there in the frozen tundra of Wisconsin. So I know he's got
white
some
out
cold.
somewhere.
Yeah, really cold. Got Mr. Matt with us here. Got Mr. Mark. Good seeing you this weekend, brother. And let's see, it's only 45 below zero in Fort Worth. So, oh man, I imagine the wind chill is probably brutal over there. So, Evan, thank you for joining us from Montgomery. We got Mr. Al joining us tonight. It's cold up here in Kansas. Yeah, man, I'll tell you what, we got an Arctic blast coming. That is for sure. So, let's see what we got over here. Joe from Buffalo. Man, appreciate you being with us, Joe. All the way from Buffalo. We got Lamar all the way from South Dakota. Man, we got them
Heck
coast to
yeah,
coast.
got some outer staters.
Man, we got Emily all the way from Ohio. Look at this. We got Gordon from Cleveland. Shoot, man. And I see
What's up, Sue?
Chris is back there in the back, so he's actually home. He said he'd probably be there about 7. So, Chris, we just sit tight, buddy. We're going to give everybody just a couple minutes to pop in. Hey, if y'all got questions tonight, we got a great champ on here. And I'm sure we're going to see if we can get a pro tip out of him. I know he's getting ready to go to Houston, and I'm getting ready to go to Houston myself. Super excited. I've never been, and I'm actually going to be the head cook of a team on Champion Row, so I'm really excited about that. It's going to be a lot of fun, and man, instead of me just going out to go visit, I'm going to actually get to cook. So it turned out to be a pretty good opportunity for me, and
Hell
I
yeah.
couldn't pass. So, Corby, thank you for being here. Doodle Q, that's exactly right. Mr. Erica, well, great seeing y'all this weekend. And man, Suzette, she talked about just y'all had back there talking and having a good time. And we had a great time in Irving, Texas this weekend. Weather was a lot nicer than what it was supposed to be. It looked like we were supposed to get some 30-mile-an-hour winds out of the west and dropping temperature all day long. And I don't know, man, it was a 5-mile-an-hour wind, and it finally got up to about 60 degrees. It was pretty nice. After awards, it started dropping, and it was 28 degrees that morning. But man, it was a good day for a cook-off. So it was really really nice.
It warmed up. We had to pull the sweatshirts off, and
Yeah,
and got to walk around, and they had a little misty rain Friday evening, I guess,
yeah,
a little bit, and it's kind of like warmed up on Saturday, and then Sunday morning, I was out there about 6 a.m. putting the gas in the generator, and it was kind of like, whoa, a little bitey, but wasn't too
yeah.
bad.
Little cool.
Wasn't
Yeah,
like I said it was going to be.
yeah. Turned out better. Lance, thank you for being here. AJ, man, Ardmore, Oklahoma. We got him, and if I recall, AJ's now leading the points. If I read that
What's
correctly,
up, Robbie
so
Dog?
he's first place in the bounty hunt points. So
Shorty short.
pretty cool. Who we got here? Arendo. Did I get that right? From Houston,
Man,
Texas. All right.
I seen it, but I wasn't going to
I,
try.
I may have butchered that name. All right. Glad you're with us all the way from Houston. That's pretty cool. Alvy, thank you for joining us. And Mr. Steve, we appreciate you being here. I smell smoked barbecue. So, yeah, good to have you there. Man, we got quite a few folks. Got Mr. Danny Titus down from South Louisiana in Lafayette. Got Mr. James Dotson. Good afternoon, James. It's so great hanging out with you and Erica this weekend. got Mr. Robert Roche on the show tonight. Hey, Rob, what's going on, buddy?
Check this guy out.
Heck yeah, man. I reached out to Rob last year, tried to get him on here one night, and he had some, I think his kids or something was in baseball or couldn't get on. Man, Rob, when did he get you on the show one time?
I heard he's got a great voice for radio.
Oh, yeah, that's what I've heard. So,
or a face for radio. I can't remember which one it is.
One of the two. Got Lucas from, and we're coast to coast and across the seas, man. We got Mr. Lucas with us from the land down under in Australia. Appreciate you being with us. Samuel, thank you for joining us. Mr. Larry, thank you for joining us all the way from South Jersey. Man, we are coast to coast.
Man, we are out of state for sure.
Yeah, a lot of them. Charles Shirley, thank you for joining us from Rogers, Texas. Well, we've given enough time for everybody to come on. I always like to welcome our guests. Chris has kind of gotten settled in. We wanted to give him a few minutes to get situated, so we'll do the mic test and the camera shot right now to see if all this stuff works. So we're going to find out live if this is going to work. So I think we're going to be all right. Let's bring in the man of the hour, Mr. Chris Hatcher. Hey, brother, how are you doing? Uh-oh. All right, we're doing good.
Damn.
We can't hear you. Ain't got no sound. He's like, oh, crap.
How about now?
Ah, there we go. Heck yeah.
That was a whole lot faster than I was last 2 weeks.
Yeah, last week Aaron was having all kind of trouble. So Aaron said, I'm done with that computer, man.
I'm done with the computer thing. I ain't a computer guy.
Oh, what's going on, Hatch? You doing all right, brother?
Man, I'm good. Finally made it home, and man, the weather's turning shit here in Fort Worth, and everybody's driving like idiots. So,
oh, Wayne.
Yeah,
Oh,
man, I'm glad to be home off the road. So, yeah, we're good.
I know what you mean. Man, you got to be safe out there. Man, I was leaving Walmart today, and, I mean, we got Burt Coons Industrial Loop, big, loop that runs around Shreveport. Runs all through the businesses and stuff. Light turned green. There was a lady in front of me. I saw her going out to make a turn to get on. It was a 4-lane highway with a median in the center. And I see her pulling out, and I'm seeing this little car coming, and it ain't even checking up. I mean, 45 miles an hour coming right through it, and I mean, she hit that dadgum lady. Thank God she hit her in the right tire. It was a little small car as well. And, I mean, it hit that car, spun it around. She stopped almost immediately, and I went over there, airbags deployed on all the cars. And, man, you talking about driving idiots. And, young girl, I ain't going to say nothing, but on her phone, didn't even check up. And, I mean, I could see it. I mean, I stopped. I was coming up to the light, and I was right behind the car. And, I mean, I saw this girl. I hit my brakes. I was like, she's fixing to hit it. She ain't even checking up. And, man, you talk about some craziness. And I was like, man, alive, that's just quit damn driving dang the road,
Yeah.
And texting and on your dang phone. I mean, it hit the tire. I mean, 4 foot away, it would have hit the side door. And it may have been a different story for that lady, because that wouldn't be good getting T-boned at 45 miles an hour. So, anyway, it's kind of scary to watch right in front of you. But, man, I'm glad you're at home. You made it there. We got camera. Yes, we got light. We got sound. We got everything.
Good
man, Chris, congratulations, man. I'll tell you what, you put on a clinic. I mean, I was starting to get a little worried there. I mean, right off the get-go, we get a first-place chicken. I was like, yeah, there goes Hatch, Second call, we get into rib, first-place damn rib. I was like, oh, I guess we're fixing to have a repeat of back 3 or 4 years ago when you hat-tricked that thing. So, yeah. And then a 10th place brisket. So I mean, you at least gave us some chance. So, man,
yeah.
they seem to like your food there. You've done pretty dang well there, man.
Man, yeah, Irving's it's been good to us over the years. I think we've had a reserve. Like you said, we did hat trick it back in, man, quite a few years ago back. I think it was 2016. We had a hat trick. It was like 50 something teams. And then we had GC'd it a few years later. So I think we've got 3 there now.
Right.
I think everybody has those places though, where you go and it's just, man, they like your food. There's something in the air, just the vibe, like you cook your ass off and it works for you.
Yeah.
There was a cook off back in Weatherford. We did, man, it was 3 or 4 years ago, and they had it 4 years in a row, and we GC'd it all 4 years.
Wow.
And I mean, we just, it was just one of those things. I mean,
right.
Not to take away from, I mean, there were great cooks there.
Right.
But, man, it was just one of those places, like, they just loved our food. So,
yeah. I mean, I think I got my second grand champion in 17. It was the first time I'd ever cooked Irving. I had like a first, a second, and a third, and that was my second grand champion. And I think it was six. You got it in 16.
Yeah,
I think mine was 17. I got my first, and I didn't go back until 3 years ago. And I went back. I had a fourth. Last year I had a second, got reserved. Or year before last I got a second, got reserved. Last year I got a grand, and I was like, man, they like my food. They didn't like my food much this weekend. I had a 6th place dead gum chicken, and man, that was it. So, but it was. I mean, I couldn't understand the brisket because, man, it was a really good brisket. And then I came in, I was telling Aaron just a minute ago, I pulled a slice out. Man, I usually always eat my brisket because, man, I love my brisket. I mean, it's not overpowering. It's one of them deals just tastes like a good brisket. And it's not pumped full of stuff because I just don't put a lot of stuff in my brisket. And, man, I pulled a slice out and warmed it up, and I was like, gosh, dog, this dang brisket is smoky. Like, how the heck did this brisket get this smoky? I mean, I use the same. I use 3 little chunks of wood every time. And we were talking, and man, I had some really big pieces of lump, and I'm just, wondering, and maybe Aaron was talking about that those real big pieces of lump, even though I don't see the smoke coming out of the smokestack, it's clean. Could that be putting a little bit more smoky flavor in that brisket? And man, I mean, it was to the point to where I ate it. I mean, I was like, and this is almost bitter smoke. It was just that strong. And normally my brisket is, just not, and I couldn't taste it that day. My smoker's in the back of my trailer, so I have a hard time detecting smoke that day. I just kind of do the same every time. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it was just too deadgum smoky. I know that. But, I mean, I know when I ate it tonight, I was like, man, this brisket is just overly smoked. So... But, yeah, I think we all have those competitions that we love going to, and, we do pretty well. Man, you've definitely got that place dialed in. And obviously, I had Weatherford maybe on the trip to go there for that CBA, and it sounds like I need to stay home. So,
shit.
But anyway,
yeah.
You've been doing good, Chris, man. I mean, you're consistent no matter where you cook at. And you had a GC. You and I cooked against each other last time over in oh gosh, I forgot the name of that. I remember that little place we ate that CBA.
Blue Ridge.
Blue Ridge. Yeah, Blue Ridge. I got Grant. You got Grant. I had reserved there. So, but you do good in that area. You got a lot of cook-offs. You seem to have Dallas dialed in all around that area.
Yeah, I mean, it's and we don't ever change anything. We cook the same, middle of the road. Nothing, nothing fancy, nothing non-offensive, And I was cooking near James Dotson and Cody Ellenbar and all them, and we were all kind of trying each other's food, and they were like, "Man, your food's it's good. It's just non-offensive. Like there's nothing that jumps out like that's going to offend me or anybody else. It's just good middle of the road barbecue."
Yep.
And that's, I hear people talk about, oh, you need a little spice, you need a little sweet, man, I don't really kind of play into that.
Right.
I mean, when you cook every weekend, I think both of you know this and can vouch for it, but when you cook every weekend, you can make those subtle tweaks. Mm-hmm. Kind of when to bring something back and to add a little more of whatever it may be.
Right.
But as far as like, man, getting into the whole like mental thing of, oh, it needs to have a little more kick on it in this area, I don't really buy it. I mean, we cook our stuff all over the place, and I'm not saying we win everywhere because we don't, but we usually,
hold your own.
We hold our own. We're in the mix, so try not to.
That's
play
not like you're going to say I'm going to cross I-35 on the 30 or something like that. I need to add more of this, or I'm going up here past Walmart on the north side. I need to add a little bit more pepper. I mean, you can't get in the head game of things, right? You just got to stay with the same program, and then that they might not like it quite so sweet up there in this little town, that you've been 2-3 times, gotten hammered. So, maybe you just kind of drop it off. So, I mean, I know what you're saying. It's definitely hard to get in the head game and try to stay with it.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, yeah, sure, you've got to know your texture, your tenderness, and all that kind of stuff. But, man, this barbecue game is mental as well. Mm-hmm. You start getting in your own head, you can really screw some stuff up pretty quick, and that's one thing I tell people, man, just run your shit, don't start overthinking stuff.
Keep it the
see
same.
what happens. Yeah. Keep it simple.
I'm running the same brisket recipe I've run since 2018. I ain't changing it. It's been too good to me. And if there's something that needs to change, it's either going to be, do they want a little more salty? Are they looking for a little something else? It's just going to be right in there. Because I mean, if it's something that's been good for 6 years, and I mean, I had a lot of top calls in brisket last year. Nothing's changed. I mean, it ain't like all of a sudden after 6 years that thing just went away. I don't see it that way. So I think you're right. And I'm glad you bring that up because that's one of the things I really wanted to talk, about tonight to kind of get into flavor profiles and this and that. And I think sometimes it seems like ribs right now are really, really sweet ribs. It seems like everybody wants a really, really sweet rib right now where, year and a half, 2 years ago, man, that wasn't the case. They wanted more a savory, little sweet. And I haven't made that transition yet over to a sweeter rib, but I'm about to because I can see my ribs have consistently not been where I want them. And at the same time, I've run 3 different rib recipes at 3 different competitions because I'm always playing around with stuff. I mean, I've had something that's been pretty good. I did this a couple years ago with chicken, and man, I was like, man, I'm going to take the year off. I really want to get something nailed down with chicken where it's just super consistent. Because I think we were all probably a couple years ago. Chris probably not because he does good everywhere he goes. But chicken, it seemed like a couple years ago, it always was like the least consistent meat that we had. It was just like all over the place. And I had a lot of people telling me that. And I was just bound and determined to try to come up with something that was just a really good chicken that just was just consistent. And man, I mean, I bombed out pretty much the whole year, but I was learning a lot of techniques. And I had a lot of things that was working really good, and I really found out some really cool things with chicken, but I could not make it work on that Weber or that M16. And I just finally said, you know what? I can't get the color. I can't get what I want this chicken to do. And I'm scrapping. I'm going back to my 22-inch WSM. That's all I've cooked on for 6-7 years prior to that. So I took all the stuff on that, and I transferred it over to the 22-inch Weber. And man, I mean, I had like a 3rd place chicken. I mean, my highest call for the whole year. It was the last competition of the year. I got a grand champion. And I go to the next competition. I had another 3rd. I go to the next competition. I have another 3rd. And I was like, gosh, dog it. I mean, it just sometimes you have to take that time to, if you really want to work on one meat and work on it till you get something.
Mm-hmm.
So I run a different recipe at Blanchard. I had a 10th place rib. I went to Bow Bridge. I ran a different recipe. I had a 10th place rib. I wasn't too upset with that because I was only 3 points from first. So it was really, really close from first to 10th was separated by 3 points. So, man, that can go either way. I mean, one judge gave me like a 7, well, man, if that was an 8 and this was an 8, I was 4th place. 2 points would have put me, I think, 4th. So I was like, man, that was a good rib. And it was a little sweeter rib. Then I went back over here and I was like, well, man, I had a good rib call there last year. I'm just running that rib. Yeah. Man, it didn't even get a final table. But I think, once again, everything was smokier. I tried my rib. It was smokier today, too. So I think it was just too much smoke. And, smoke is an ingredient. And it's just like if you get too much salt, you get too much pepper, get too much heat, you can get too much smoke and you can run a good piece of meat. So, man, I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm playing around with and what I'm seeing ribs. I'm just like, man, I really want to try something with ribs this year. So do you ever get to that point, or are you kind of running your same stuff that you've been running for years, or have you kind of shifted a little bit of flavor profiles, maybe with rubs and sauces and stuff?
Yeah, I have. And it's funny you bring that up, talking about ribs being a little bit sweeter profile right now. And before obviously getting ready for Houston, right? Kind of switching gears there, thinking about that contest. But I was like, man, I need to run some stuff here in Irving just to feel comfortable before we go, whatever. And I started looking back through some of our finishes. I mean, we've been cooking, fairly steady. So I was looking, our ribs more savory than sweet, I'd say. And it does good usually all the time. And I started going back, looking at all my notes and all my placings. I was like, man, I need to do something, right? Like, we were still kind of hanging around that top 10, but we weren't getting the calls that I think we deserved. Like, texture, tenderness, man, we were nailing it. Everything was good there. And I'm like, shit. And I've been noticing, okay, I know that guy's profile is a little bit sweeter. So going into Irving, I was like, all right, I'm gonna make a decision to sweeten my rib up a little bit, take a little bit of the savory out, add a little sweet, and it worked.
Yep.
It's not gonna work like that every time, but it did. So,
yeah, and
I was pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my ribs just kind of been that 6th place, 5th place, 6th place. Like, come on. And then all of a sudden you get a first, and I was like, all right, man, I got a first out of this thing. And then, I go to another competition, I got a first, or I think I had a second. And I was like, oh man, maybe we're on to something. Then next thing you know, no final table. It's just like, dang man, right when and this was last year. And it was more that savory, savory rib, not over sweet, just real balanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I wanted to work on. I was like, man, I'm not tired of it being middle pack, but man, I'm just trying to get everything moved a little bit higher. I mean, middle pack's good, but if you're going to beat Chris, if you're going to beat Aaron, if you're going to beat some of these guys, man, it's going to get pretty tough. Sometimes you need 3 good calls. 2 good top 5s at least, and better not be too far out of a top 5 with the other ones. So it's just getting a lot harder. I mean, there's a lot of good cooks out there.
Yeah, that's what I was sitting next to Justin West at awards before they started, and even Justin made the comment. He's like, "Man, 2 top 5s will win this." I mean, 2/5 might win it,
right?
Just because of the caliber of cooks that were there. I mean, there were 30 cooks.
Yeah,
man,
30 cooks.
Any of those 30 cooks could have GC'd.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
absolutely,
man, you never know, but yeah, I think having two in the top 5 definitely helps.
Yeah. You just about have to get it, especially when you have some good cooks. If you can get 2 in the top 5 with that kind of caliber of cooks, you pretty much well kind of setting yourself up for success at that point. So I'm sure after you had 2 first place, you was probably feeling pretty good. So I was already like, my damn chair's going down. I had already done called it. I told Suzette, I was like, yeah, Chris is going to win this thing. I was like, I don't see his brisket being out of the money anywhere. So anyway, but yeah, I mean, it is funny. So now you're going to Houston. You're a world champion in ribs. You won the rib competition last year or year before last?
23.
23. Okay. Yeah. And what flavor profile do they like down there, Chris? Is it more of a sweeter rib down there?
That's what I ran. I mean, actually, the rib I ran in Irving this past weekend was my Houston rib.
And what was that recipe? Hold on one second. I need let me get my paper. I don't have no paper, but I got a paper towel. You want to run that by me real quick?
Check your text. I sent it to you earlier. I don't know if you're bad service or not.
Yeah, bad internet connection. So anyway, well, I tell you what, it was a good rib apparently because you got first with it. So yeah, I mean, it would probably have to feel pretty good leaving there, going down to that cook-off after 2 good calls, and I'm sure you're going to probably run something pretty similar down there as well. So
yeah, we'll run something pretty close to that for sure.
Yeah. Does the flavor profile? Do you kind of cook this what you do up here, kind of the same down there? You kind of run that same flavor profile.
I don't change anything.
Don't change it. What about you, Aaron? I mean, you cook everywhere in Texas. I mean, you're in freaking West Texas. You're in stinking Rio. You're in Houston area sometime. You're up here. Do you change things around just a little bit? Because I would have to think stuff in West Texas or the Rio is probably a little bit different than what we have up here in East Texas and stuff, because everything's a little bit more savory.
And it's combining. I'll be honest with you, the last 3 or 4 years, I'd say 3 years. I'd say probably 3 years. I think the flavor profiles have kind of become pretty similar across the state.
Okay.
You're still going to have your small towns that that really just don't like pepper, or that really just don't like any kind of heat source. They might want it sweet, but you're going to have something that just, I mean, it is going to change a little bit. But I think I want to say, if I said 70% of the state, I think it's pretty close to being along that same line. There's that 30% you just don't know it's out there, and that's what kind of sucks, because every weekend different zip code in a different part of the state, so it's hard to dial in on it. You just run the same thing and hope that it's going to kind of hit. Like the last 3 months, I've been doing a different rib injection, and I said, let's try something new. It's wintertime. It's the first year, so I'd say probably end of December, then January. And then I took my last 2 years rib that I did really well with, and I combined that with what I was this last couple of months pretty strong, you know. And I didn't have a lot of calls at first. Then calls started coming back up. But the closer I got to the south, or the closer I got to the east, or the north, you know, it would change. And so I'd be kind of devastated, you know, kind of that long ride home Sunday kind of feel. But I think that when I put them together, I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. This is good. This is like really good, but it wasn't too far over. You know, when you ate it, you were just nothing stood out, but you were very impressed. So I think, you know, it does kind of change, but I think most of the state is becoming pretty consistent, because I think all the cooks are cooking kind of the same profile.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think everyone's kind of getting on the same table. So
that makes sense. And homegrown barbecue, you know, going to different areas, do you already know what that area likes, or is it just experience? Well, I'll start off. Yeah, we kind of know, if we've cooked in that area, we kind of know what they like. I've always said good barbecue travels. So if I'm cooking in South Louisiana, I cook the same exact stuff there as when I went to Henrietta, Texas, for that outlaw cook-off they had up there. It was the last one of the bounty hunt, and Justin was like, man, you need to go. You need to stay in this deal. And everybody was screaming at me to go, and I was like, man, I ain't never cooked up that far, but, you know, I just did the same thing. And, man, I got reserve grand champion up there, and I reserved down there in Bow Bridge. So I've always said good barbecue will travel. And, you know, then we went down to West Texas. You know, I had a first in chicken, a first in brisket down there. So I always try to, when you find something that works, it's just little subtle changes. You know, you don't have to make such big changes to, I've got to throw everything away and just start all over, you know. And because I think then, man, you can get, and Chris, you kind of said something just a second ago that kind of, you can start getting so far off of what you did that you'll never get it. You won't know what the heck do you do. Yep. And I think that's the biggest thing is, man, you can get so far out in left field that if you're not taking good notes to know what you did to get back on track, like, what the heck am I doing here? Right. You know, don't you agree, guys?
I do. Yep.
Yeah.
And that goes back to kind of what I was saying earlier, you know, about cooking. You don't have to cook every weekend, but be cooking quite often to where you know what to change or what to tweak. I don't like to call them changes. Yeah. I like to call them tweaks, you know, because we're not changing a lot.
Yeah.
We're making small tweaks, but yeah, you definitely have to, you know, be cooking and pay attention, you know, to kind of where you're at and what, you know, kind of what walks. But man, I don't change a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah. It's Chris. It's the text message to you is coming. I already got one on the ribs. He said he sent it. I must be tied up in the air somewhere on the cloud. Yeah. So maybe it'll come by the next couple of months or so.
Yeah, pay that phone bill. Didn't go through.
Yeah, that's it. Let's see. Yeah, they love Mike's Food in Kaufman. Yeah, now that's one place right there. Now I don't know. I mean, I grand champion Irving last year, first, third, fourth. I go down to Kaufman, and I think it was the very next weekend. Didn't even have a final table on nothing. I had not went there, and I think it was 3 or 4 years prior. I think it was 2020. So I went there in 2020, had no final tables on nothing, and just had a first place against 63 teams at that Willis Point cook-off, Aaron, and I'm sure you was there. That was that 2020 points chase they had. It was right when COVID, it was like the last cook-off, 63 teams there, 20 of them was in the top 20 chasing points. I had a first rib. I go to Kaufman. I don't even get out of my seat. I didn't even have final table. I was like, I ain't coming back here. I'm done. I go back 4 years later, and Suzette said, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to go to Kaufman. They're all on me about running some of these, I've had a good start with Irving. You grand champion it. You keep your points going. I was like, yeah, okay, I'll go. Man, I didn't even have a final table. So I told Suzette, she said, you're not going back there again. I said, man, if I go back there, I'm going to go buy a select brisket. I'm going to go buy ribs that I ain't put no injection. I ain't going to put no sauce on it. I ain't going to do nothing to them. I'm going to take it out of the package, put some salt and pepper on it, and stick it in the box. So, but that's my nemesis, man. James, you're right. I don't know what the heck they like. No, Rick Mell's got it figured out. So
yeah, he does.
But have you ever cooked it?
Yeah. We've actually cooked it quite a few times. We GC'd it.
Oh God!
after I think it was 2016, and then the next year we came back and we reserved it. Okay. And then I think the year before COVID we had like a third chicken, And then we went back last year when you were there, and I think we had like a 10th place brisket or something. Like it was, man, we kind of got our asses kicked too, and it was kind of embarrassing. But yeah, I don't know what they want. I mean, I thought we had pretty good. I mean, I know you had good food too. So
yeah, and it didn't even get final tables.
Yeah,
it's like
we had shit luck that day. That's
they didn't like my stuff. I mean, you got one call across the line, so I just started a fire in Kaufman. So, oh gosh, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's just the little things that you got to kind of figure out. And you brought up something, and I will tell this to anybody that's listening. Man, we really appreciate. We got a lot of comments coming in tonight. I think the more that you cook consistently or are out there cooking a lot, it does help you get better. You start to learn the flavor profiles a little bit quicker of what, you know what good barbecue is, you're consistent. And then all of a sudden, if you're down somewhere, you got to make that little change. And I think the more that you get out, the more that you cook, I think it helps you catch those trends a little bit faster. I know it was for me in 23. My brisket, man, all in 22 was pretty much top 5. First 2 cook-offs right off the get-go at the beginning of the year. 10th place brisket, 9th place brisket. And I was like, oh, whoa, what's happened here? And I was like, man, something's changed, and man, I made one change on the brisket. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a change here and just see if this is gonna work. Man, I went to the next competition, got a 2nd place brisket, and went to the next competition, got a 1st place brisket. And I ran that for the entire year, and it worked all of 23. And then I went into 24, same competition that I had changed it, got a 2nd place brisket, and I was like 8th place. Went to another one, I was like 9th place. I was like, holy crap! Took that out, and next thing you know, I'm right back at the top. I get a 1st place in Gilmer. So and I think the more that you cook, it really kind of helps you start to dial stuff in a little bit. Especially if you're not chasing all these recipes everywhere. Just I would make the little tweaks to it. And do you see that too, guys?
I do. And and something else, a lot of people don't think about is what you do on the board. I mean, what you do on the board, and I think Aaron will agree, like that can make or break you. You can make the right decision, or you can make a terrible decision.
Right.
On your finishing right there on the board. And I mean, you can bring something back to life too that ain't worth the, 2 shits either.
Yeah.
But man, a lot of people don't think about that. They just kind of run the same thing and hammer it with, dust and all this other stuff, man. That can hurt you a lot of times.
Yeah.
Yeah, last 15 minutes. I mean, ever since probably, I'm going to say probably the 1st of January, my brisket fell off. I couldn't figure out why. December it was okay. November it was good. I just slowly started finding my way out of that mode, right? And so these last couple, probably 4-6 weeks, it's been hard for me in ribs and brisket because I mean that was never a problem for me. Chicken maybe, but it was never a problem for those 2 meats, And I sit there, and this past weekend I said, you know what, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm fixing it. I've been running the same brisket since probably 18, and it's never really changed. Just tweaked a little here and there, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to go back to what I did and take everything out that I've added to small things and start back over. And I started back over this weekend, basically with the rib and with the brisket. And I did notice it, and you taste it, you can tell right then and there what it might need or what for your profile anyway.
Right. Right.
And so you kind of make that run, but it's, you will find yourself adding a teaspoon or a tablespoon or, a small shake or, an extra rub or something. And sometimes it's not what it needed. It was just fine the way you had it before you went jacking with it. And that last 15 minutes trying to make a 1st place brisket will kill you.
Yeah.
Because, even though everybody wants 1st place, it's not what you're going for. You're just going for that consistent, middle of the road score. So you can try to get there on that podium. But you do find yourself adding more and more and more every time you go somewhere because somebody told you something. You change your sauce or you change this or you change the finishing dust or you add something to the brisket. I mean, the things I hear is outrageously, I don't know, like I'm scared to try some of these things because it works for them, but does it work for them outside of that 100-mile radius? So
right.
Anyways, but yeah, you definitely hurt yourself that last 15 minutes before you box it.
Yeah, one of the things I try to avoid, people, what kind of finishing dust you use? And I don't use no finishing dust on my brisket. I I put no finishing dust on my brisket, never have. And I try to put all the flavor in my brisket because I do it the same every time, that when I cook my brisket, I know my flavor is going to be pretty much the same every time. I use the same amount of injections. I make my injections the same. I do everything the same, and the rubs and all that stuff. And last year was the first year that I had to put some salt on my slice, and it was at Irving. And I tasted it, and I was like, golly. And it was a big, thick brisket. It was really a little thicker than normal. It was a big, thick brisket. And I was like, this brisket don't quite have that little savory flavor. And I was like, man, I better put some salt on this thing. So I had a grinder in there, and I went and grabbed some sea salt real quick. I just made one little pass of sea salt across it. I tasted it. I was like, oh, man, that woke it up a little bit. Only time I've ever put salt on my brisket. And but I try not to do that because I think you're right. You can do so much that you can screw it up. Now I will taste my ribs, because one thing, rib, you can get real crazy because it's a pretty thin piece of meat. I'll taste it, and if I don't think it's got enough, I do keep a little sea salt in a grinder. And I don't try to mix all these 900 rubs and this and that. Man, I'll just put a little sea salt across the top of it if I think it needs a little salt on it. I don't do nothing with chicken. I mean, I pretty much will sauce my chicken. That's pretty much well it. I try not to do it. And I think you're right, Chris, and you bring up a good point for a lot of people that's listening. And guys, y'all need to listen, because Chris is, man, both these guys are freaking amazing cooks. You know, you got to be really, really careful of what you're doing when you get on that cutting board. You can take a perfectly good piece of meat, and man, you can over season it. You can screw it up in a hurry. You are changing the flavor profile of what you cooked when you start doing that, unless if what you're going to do on the cutting board is exactly the same every time. And to me, I have a problem of, if I've got a slice there of brisket and I'm going to go put some stuff on it, how do I know I put the same amount that I did for the last time? Was a little more heavy-handed this time than the last time? Man, that can make a huge, huge difference. So be careful with that. So it can knock you.
Or you go doing your normal routine, all of a sudden, and just a lot more dumps out than usual, and you're like,
yeah.
This weekend, I was like, oh crap, you know, and I'm over there with the au jus brush, just trying to
get it off,
start over just a little bit, because I did see a major dump, but we all try so hard to do our best that we sometimes forget that our best has already been done, because have been cooking the same recipe so long. And then you hear something, you got to try it. So you try it, worked okay, or it didn't work okay, but then you're like, why did I do that? You know, just go with your gut, do your routine, and just trust your process, and you'll be okay. But you get a little heavy thoughted there the last couple of minutes. Now I want to beat Chris, or I want to look over there and beat old Mike, so I got to do something a little different. And you don't. Right. You should just left it alone.
Just left it alone. I'll tell you one thing that I'm going to share, and Aaron will tell you this, and I learned it from Aaron when we cooked at that cook-off in Benbrook. It was Benbrook, Texas, and it was an IBCA cook-off, Aaron. It was probably in 2019, 2020.
In the parking lot,
in that parking lot,
yep. Mall, huh?
Yep.
Had my dad with me.
And you had your dad with you, and I think Tommy was with you. And I think that was really probably one of the first times I ever met you and actually talked to you. And you had me in your trailer, and I had never tried any of your stuff, and you gave me a couple bottles of stuff. But one of the things that you told me that I thought was really interesting was, if you take anything out of a bottle, and you put it in a shaker, you throw that away, because if you take that, whatever you had, and you dump it back in the bottle, you just change the formula. And I was like, you know what, man, I never thought about that. And I should have thought about something like that, because I'm in the candle. At that time, I was still, and I had already sold my candle business. No, I had not. I still had my candle business. It's the same thing with that. You can't just go take stuff and dump it back in it, because you mess up your formulas and this and that and everything else. And I mean, I walked away and I was like, man, that is so smart, because you've got your rubs made up. It's so many grams of every one of your rubs, whatever it is, grams, ounces, however they do it. And then all of a sudden you pour some in a shaker and you shake it. Well, all that salt's going to get separated from everything else. And then you're done with it, and you dump it back in the container. If you do that 4 or 5 times, man, you've done changed the formula of what was there. And I'm telling you guys, that is a huge pro tip. If I put something in my shaker that I'm going to use, even if I'm putting rub on my brisket or on my ribs or something, and I'll pour enough in it that I think I've got enough to do it. And if I run out, I'll add a little more. But if I've got some left, it goes in the trash. It never goes back in my container. So that
Well,
is
they kind of the thought came from, and I think I told Mike this, that I had a guy come to me, and I believe we were in Hereford, Texas, and I GC'd that day, and I think Chuck Long reserved it. And they have a huge Calcutta, right? And that's where the big money guys come. You know, your big crane operators, your big oil field guys. They come in there spending $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 for a Calcutta, trying to make money off these barbecue teams, and we can't compete with that, man. We can't we can't compete with a 15. It's it's like 4 times the money, right? So, had a guy come to me, and he was buying the 5-pound bags, and I said, okay, man. He goes, what did you change your rub for? I said, I didn't change anything. I haven't changed the rub. My recipes are the same. And I'd say it's probably 19. And he goes, well, no, you changed something. My black gold, my brisket rub is super salty. I said, well, I don't know, man. I mean, here I've got a brand new bottle. Let's taste it. So I got a brand new bottle, opened, popped the top. He tasted it. He said, that ain't the same. And I gave it to him. I said, well, here, use this, man. I'll give you a free bottle. Don't worry about it. And so he was mad at me. And so I had to do, and most guys will give you an example, or they'll give you something, right? I mean, if I had an issue with Chris and with the motorcycle, I bet he could probably fix my dirt bike for me. I mean, the guy loves that kind of stuff. And if he has to ask me 100 questions to get down to the answer, did you put the key in it? I mean, that kind of sucks, right? It's a waste of my time. And so when it got down to the point of about 30 minutes of interrogation, basically, I said, man, wait a second. I said, you're buying 5-pound bags. What are you doing? And he goes, yeah, I get down about an inch in the bottle, and about an inch or so in the bottle, I just fill it back up. I said, okay. So I get down about an inch in the bottle. I cook a lot, and I fill it back up. And I said, so you never empty the bottle? He goes, no. And I said, well, you changed the recipe 5 different times. If you fill it up 5 different times, I said, because the salt goes to the bottom, and then the more you get down the bottom, and so most guys will do that, right? You know, I'm sure Hatch has done the same thing, where you have a little rub left in a bottle, and you either try to use it all, or then you use some of the new bottle and pour it in the other bottle, and that way you're not wasting it, right? But when you do that, you do change the profile of that seasoning, and over a little bit of time of doing that back and forth, you will change the ingredients in that bottle, where something's more salty, or something's more peppery, or something's going to float to the top or float to the bottom.
Yeah, 100%.
And when I told him that, he looked at me and he said, "Damn, I never would have thought that, you know." But salt's heavy and it goes to the bottom. So the only way you get a saltier rub is to add more salt, and if you're doing that every time. So that was kind of the theory. But yeah, I don't. When I get down, if I can't finish that bottle, I've just got a little bit left, and I'll either use it in some beans or I'll use it in something else. But I won't go back on my meats with it. I'll save that for another day and open a fresh bottle and go to using it. So
right, yep. Anna and Scotty, man, congratulations. Anna's on tonight. Her and Scotty got a reserve grand champion. Man, they had 2 good calls. I know they had I think it was a third chicken, first brisket or something. And, man, they had 2 good calls. So congratulations to them. And, man, what about Amy Hargrove? Man, I mean, that was awesome. 3rd place, to watch her get 3 walks. And I think she was just in complete shock afterwards. It was really, really cool to see her do that and do that well, and super, super excited for her and what she did. That was really awesome to pull off. So Chuck, thank you.
And I learned a new rule, it goes off walks and outlaws. So
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, 3-way tie for 3rd place, and I'm like, wait a second, I had a better brisket call. But no,
that's
it's walks.
It's the walks. You got the bonus points. You got 3 bonus points, or the extra 3 bonus points. So. Oh my goodness gracious! I tell you what, it's been good. It's really good, and I'm glad. I mean, if anybody's got any questions, man, this is a good time. We got Chris on here, got Aaron, myself. We'll try to answer anything, and see if we can.
And spit them out, guys.
Yeah, spit them out. We're always good. We'll take it just a halfway break and let everybody. One thing I forgot to do. I do want to do this. We always want to thank our partners, David Gunnar Wilhelm. Hey guys, man, keep David in your prayers. He's been battling some pretty tough cancer here last year, and he's still doing some chemo and stuff. Man, he does a lot for barbecue in the state community, so keep him in your prayers. We do appreciate them with Gunnar Wilhelm Knives, B&B Charcoal, Miss Gail with Daigle's Barbecue sauces and glazes that she has. She's got some great stuff. And I keep telling you guys, if y'all are needing Prairie Fresh product, call Kirsten at Raider Red Meats. I've sent, gosh, I don't know how many people to her last year watching our podcast. I know she said she probably had at least 50 or 60 customers that was calling and placing orders. So if you like Prairie Fresh Prime products, she has the Prairie Fresh Prime pork butts and ribs, and she can get them to you at a great price as far as shipping, and get pretty good prices on the meat product itself. So be sure to check all of those guys out. Man, I'm going to have to get me a new chair. Either I'm getting fat or something, but the hydraulic shock is wanting to keep going down. So maybe it's time to invest in a new one. I keep like, yeah, it'll be down here before it's over with. So, yeah, that's it.
It keeps going down.
Oh, it keeps going down on me. Anyway, but yeah, if y'all got any questions, drop them in. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Can you ask Catch how many fingers he thinks Erica? Okay, so let me ask you a question. If I were to get you to comment it to me and then he guessed it correctly, are you going to give him $100? Ooh. Because I wouldn't bet against Chris, because he probably knows. So, how was the tequila shot? I guess y'all did a tequila shot or something. So, oh yeah, it's the 10 o'clock drink that you guys have going on. So, quick question: I'm having trouble with bark on my brisket. I cook in a drum. So, well, I'm not a drum cooker, and Chris is not a drum cooker. So, we're gonna leave that to Big Aaron, because he's cooked a brisket or two on a drum. What would you think's going on there, Aaron?
Well, if your bark is wet, I'm assuming that's what you're talking about, because I don't know if I mean the color of it, on a drum usually gets a little darker.
Right.
But if you wrap your brisket and then you take your brisket back off and it's a wet brisket, right? Like the seasonings are wet, the peppers turn white because you bleached it. You got to put it back on the drum and dry it out.
That's it.
The only way to get that dry, it's just like any kind of liquid. The only way to take the liquid off is to dry the liquid out. So
that's it.
Put it back on the drum and set it and keep going with that brisket open until that bark dries up. And you'll have all of a sudden you got magical bark.
Yep, that's it. It'll dry it out. If your bark's there and it's kind of mushy, take it out full, put it in there just right on the pit, give it 15 minutes, and usually it'll dry it out pretty quick. It's amazing what heat does to steam. That heat creates that steam, and it just goes away. Yeah, so
sure enough.
Let's see.
If they're adding any sprays or butter or anything like that too, that could slow down that process of building that bark too.
Yeah.
It will.
Yeah.
Keep it more.
I don't ever spritz on a drum until I see it dry.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't add wet on wet, but if I see the brisket drying out, like it's actually starting to set up, like just getting dry, then I might go ahead and do something, put some kind of liquid on it. But there's so much moisture and humidity inside of a drum anyways, depending on where you're cooking at, that you've got that steam come back from the charcoal and those drippings, that you'll get that wet consistency for about that first hour and a half usually. Yeah. Unless you're kicking it, off, 500, plus on the get-go. So
right. I do the same. I mean, I don't put nothing on my brisket for the first hour and a half. My brisket goes on at 4:45. I don't do nothing until like 6:30, and usually I'll open it up and I'll touch it. And if it feels still moist, then I don't put nothing on it. And like this past weekend, it was pretty moist. There was a lot of moisture in the air. Yeah. And man, I touched the brisket and I was like, this thing don't need nothing. I put just a little around the edge. That was it. And then finally, at about the 2 hour and 15 minute mark, I was like, okay, I'm just going to give it. And it was just a very light little spritz. So yeah, you can, I think Chris brought it up. I mean, you can put too much butter or water or stuff like that on it. Man, it'll never dry out. So be careful with that. All right. Someone told us one time that seasons change when traveling and seasons breaking down and vibrating to the bottom. Well, yeah, if they're riding around and it's bouncing around a lot, if you don't have a lot of rub in the bottle, obviously it can work its way to the bottom, especially salt. So all you got to do to just shake it back up. Shake it up. I mean, so whatever went to the bottom, man, I shake it. It's going to go back to the top. It's not going to move so much if you got a pretty full bottle, 3/4 bottle. But if you've only got an inch or two of rub in a bottle, you need to shake the crap out of it and get it stirred back up. So, let's see. All right, let's see. Here we go. When I wrap brisket, I've never added a liquid. Any tips on ideas where to start? Oh man, gosh.
Well, that depends on how you're wrapping.
Yeah. if you're wrapping in butcher paper, ain't a whole lot you can do. If you're wrapping in pan or foil, man, there's a lot of different things. Purvis has got a chicken fried barbecue's got a brisket wrap out. Man, it seems to be doing pretty good. A lot of guys are using it and doing very successful. You take a bottle of that, and I think he's mixing one bottle to 32 ounces of beef broth or something. I think it's beef broth. You might do a half and half. I mean, you can use beef broth. I don't put a lot of liquid in mine. I kind of keep it simple. So, but man, there's a lot of different things. But if you're looking for just a brisket wrap, you don't know where to start, go to Chicken Fried Barbecue, and he's got a brisket wrap on there, and he uses a bottle to, I think, 32 ounces of beef broth, and just mix it up and put that in your brisket if you're using a full pan to wrap it in. So, or you can use just straight beef broth. You're not going to have the flavor because it's just beef broth don't have a lot of to it, but you can add some other things to it. So
that 32 ounces in that type of regiment only works if you're putting it in a pan and you're covering it in foil.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're wrapping in foil, you can only put
7 ounces.
I can't remember. It's been so long. Tommy does it, but I mean, you probably put
7 ounces.
4 to 7 ounces.
7 ounces.
Take,
It ain't much.
That's all it is 7 ounces. So try that. If you're wrapping in full, it's about 7 ounces. If you're wrapping in a full pan, 16 to 20 ounces. So, all right, let's see. We honestly appreciate you guys. The barbecue family are always willing to give advice. There you go, brother. What brand of ribs did you use when you won Houston? Oh, there's a good question, Chris. What'd you use, man? Smithfield. All right. Did you use the extra tenders or the black label?
No, black label.
The black label. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. There you go.
And on that note, I use Smithfield black labels too. But to answer Peacock's question in the deal, they've been frozen for about 3 months.
Okay. Okay. How do you contact Raider Red Meats? Jeff, look up Raider Red Meats. You can Google them. If you go to bbqchamps.com, at the bottom of every one of our pages, there's a link that goes right to Raider Red Meats. So whichever is the quickest for you to do. You go to bbqchamps.com. Scroll down to the very, very bottom of our page. Any page that you land on, it's got all of our partners and sponsors on there. It's got a link. If you go, if you call and talk to Kirsten. She is the manager. She runs the place. And tell her that you heard about them from BBQ Champs, and she will hook you up. If you kind of tell her what you're wanting on ribs, she's very, very good. If you give her a weight, she's pretty good about trying to get you weight and things like that. So tell her what you're looking for, and she's usually pretty good about getting you what you need. So Kirsten at Raider Red Meats. Doing a little brisket practice this weekend for Barbecue Austin. There you go. Are you going to go to Austin Rodeo? Either one of you guys? Aaron, you are? Okay,
no, I won't be there this year.
All right. Yes, add beef broth when you wrap. That's a good one. Let's see. Yes. All right. Let's see. Good evening, Paul Knight. Smoke happens in
Goldthwaite,
Texas. Thank you there. All right, Stephen Pitt, question. Okay to freeze or never freeze your meats prior to a competition? Man, every one of my briskets are usually frozen. And all my brisket, all my ribs are. I went to Walmart today and I found 4 racks of ribs, and I was like, man, I got to get 2 of them for Houston. I found a couple of them that'll work. So, yeah, they're frozen. I haven't had any issue. So even chickens, I haven't had issues with chickens as well. Let's see here. All right, Chris. So I got a question. Houston Rodeo. I found some nice ribs today. They were probably, I think they were both 3.9, 3.95, but they weren't stupid thick ribs, just a nice, good, even. Will a rib like that fit in a box? Because I know it's a pretty small little 8-inch by 8-inch box. Is there a problem getting a 3.9 rib in it that's not big, huge hammers, but just a nice, good, normal rib?
Yeah, they should fit. I mean, I usually cook 3.5 to 4.
Okay.
Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong. I think we put 10 in the box. Is that right, Houston?
Yeah.
I think last year I had some pretty big honkers, and my ribs on the end, I ended up having to go down one side of the bone just to get it in the box.
I was able to put 5 and 5. I had to close the box, but I was able to get 5 and 5. But it gets tight, and I usually do about a 4.2 rib. Between 4 and 4.5. So I try to keep them in the 4 pound range for for that type of box, anyways. But
Right.
I didn't have to go down the sides this time. I was able to just put 5 and 5.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. All right. Well, I
Yeah.
thought I looked at them. I was like, yeah, man, they should fit. I mean, they weren't just huge.
But just be
honks,
sure you tag the end of it, and
Yeah.
don't you can trim your side of your rib, but don't trim the length of it.
Yeah.
Cook a long rib. That way you've got plenty to
Oh,
choose
yeah.
from, because you start. I mean, you can do your whole comp cut, but I think three racks of ribs is all you can.
2.
Is it 2?
Yeah.
I couldn't remember what it was we did, but
Yeah.
but I just went ahead and left mine long, that we didn't have to mess with it.
Right. Yeah. I normally trimmed to like a 9 bone. I may leave an extra bone on there because I know I need 5. But what I looked at was, I was like, man, I can kill this first bone. Man, I counted 5 bones, and a lot of times they'll be nice and flat, and then you'll have 4 of them that are good, and then all of a sudden they're just like paper thin. But man, I just looked at these and they were even all the way across. I was like, man, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6, and they were all the same. I was like, man, I need to get that because I got to get 5 out of that rack. I got to get 5 out of another rack. They looked like they were all pretty even. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. So sorry, I CBA'd the Outlaw Awards this weekend. Man, leave it to Shane. Them damn Yankees. I'm telling you, I don't know what to think about these. I was like, I didn't realize he had that speaker sitting there. I was like, that has got to be the loudest speaker on a cell phone that I've ever heard in my life. I was like, how you? And I couldn't see it. He had it just sitting there and speaker. I was like, man, that's cool. So
Gotta have that music, man. We like that
let's
music.
see. Did you say Raider Red Meats? How can I contact to order? Yes, Raider Red Meats. That's exactly right. Like I said, go to the website on Barbecue Champs or look them up. Raider Red Meats, talk to Kirsten. So I liked it. It was pretty good. Shane LeClaire, that was awesome. Yeah, it was pretty good. So Mark, take the class. That's it, baby. Lasagna pan. Yeah, that's a good one to wrap a brisket in. Take the class. Everybody's got the taking the class going there, buddy. Holy crap, man. I had a bunch of people here I wasn't down far enough on. So
Jason's right. Kristen. If you tagging that meat is really an issue, but like Austin Rodeo got rid of the tag, which was nice last year.
Right,
so
right.
Because you had to put the tag with a chunk of meat back in the box.
Yeah.
And people were having to run from turn in to go get that tag to get back, and you're trying to help each other out, like helping them meet halfway or something. So Houston still tags it, which I think is still stupid. I think it just needs to be a cook off and go for it. But that's just their little, that's their little gig. So.
Yep. Did you use Smithfield's this weekend, Chris, or did you use Prairie Fresh?
No, I did Smithfield.
Smithfield, okay. All right,
Yep.
Extra tender for a couple of years, yeah. Chicken brine injector both. All right, chicken, brine injector both, Chris.
Both for me.
Aaron?
I do both.
I just inject, all right. Let's see, Anna Bryce. Mike, who are you cooking with in Houston? I'm not cooking with nobody. I'm the head cook. So, yep, doing it. Definitely doing brisket and ribs and probably the chicken as well. I've got somebody that'll assist me there, so may turn the duties over to them and just kind of tell them what we're looking for. But no, I'm cooking on Champions Row, Anna. Let's see what we got here. Just want to say Aaron Leslie and Chris Etcher are 2 of my favorite cooks, and they've helped us more than any other cook when we started. Thank you. That's from James. There you go, man. Awesome.
Good people there, man. Good
yeah, they are good people.
Yeah, they are.
Contest.
I started to go shake their trailer Sunday morning and check on them, make sure they were still alive.
Yeah, man, I left there.
I mean, there was still the junkyard out there, and they had all the stuff out in the yard, and it was like,
oh, I know. It was pretty bad, man. It was pretty bad. So, who are you cooking with in Houston? I'm cooking. Just me, man. Just me. Doing all the cooking. Let's see. Hell, our Houston reps suck. Oh gosh, yeah, I've heard some of them can be bad. HEB sells a pan, perfect pan for brisket. Both what, Anna? Both brisket. I don't understand. Both what, Anna?
I think she's answering a question from a previous comment.
Oh, okay, maybe that's what it was. Anybody ever find good ribs at Aldi? We're getting a bunch of Aldi stores here. I've went in there a couple times. I would say no. So. Mike, are you competing in Hall Summit this weekend? No, I'm not. There's just no way I can do that. I got too much to do, trying to get ready to go to rodeo, and it was just no way I can do it. So anyway, How did you get on Champions Row? One of the teams that normally cooks on Champions Row couldn't cook, and they wanted me to come cook. So they didn't want to lose their spot. So anyway, well, man, I tell you what, guys, it has been a flippin' awesome show tonight. Chris, I guess I'll see you, brother, in a week and a half. And,
yes, sir.
Definitely going to look you up when we're down there.
Yeah.
And congratulations, man, on a outstanding weekend. What a clinic that was, brother. It's always great to have you on our show, and a lot of questions asked, a lot of good answers, guys. Man, this is a great show. I hope everybody's enjoyed it. Chris, safe travels down to Houston, brother. We'll catch you. Aaron, man, it was always great to cook with you, and hope we get to see you down the road, brother. Yeah. Appreciate you being here. I hope everybody's enjoyed the podcast tonight. And I'm in that mood, man. You know what we're about to say. You know, we got the class rolling here, so
you might as well just go ahead.
Might as well go on and do it. Anyway, I hope everybody's had a great evening. We really do appreciate it. Stay warm. We got some cold weather coming in, and have a lot of fun. Y'all get out there and, like we always say it, have a lot of fun. And what we do, smoke on.
Smoke on.